kind of wobbling around. I am a lucky boy. I have a vintage MS-20, about 1979, I believe. And that was about a year ago, I think, and went and picked it up from a lovely guy in southeast London. But the more I played it, the more I realised that making a video on it was actually going to be somewhat impossible. Impossible, I hear you ask, with bated breath. Why? Well, because it's versatile. Like, crazy versatile. Like, how am I supposed to fit all of this into one video kind of versatile? So I thought we'd break it down into steps and do my best anyway to pay homage to the MS-20 properly and show you why I think it is one of the best synths ever made. I thought we'd start with drum sounds, so today we are going to squeeze kicks, snares, toms and cymbals out of this 45-year-old magic rectangle. The MS-20 keeps things pretty simple. We've got two oscillators, a VCO mixer, there's LFOs, there's modulation capabilities for the high pass and low pass filter, both of which have resonance control. Your modulation generator, which is effectively an LFO, as you can see here, with rate and waveform controls. So I'm just going to put those back down to normal. Just get the nice little LED there to show you the rate of your LFO, which is very cool. And then envelope generator 1 and 2. 2 is the one we're going to be using mostly today. You can patch in external signals into the MS-20 as well, so you've got all sorts of control down there, including high cut and low cut, CV adjustment, and an overall level for your input as well. And then, of course, slightly less simply, we have this massive great patch bay over here where you can patch pretty much everything into pretty much everything else. I thought we'd start with a kick. So obviously with the kick, we do want the footages on both of our oscillators here. Oscillator 1 goes down to 32, oscillator 2 goes all the way down to 16, so I have both of those set all the way down. Pulse switch modulation is off. I've got a triangle and a saw wave going on my oscillators there. I have the magic of this, where a lot of this is going to come from for a kick, is from our filters and how we set those with the resonance. Something you will hear me talk about constantly if you watch this channel, especially on the synth videos and stuff, is how much I love doing this particular trick on the MS-20 with the filters, which is where you can bring the cutoff to wherever you need it to be. Obviously on something like a kick or a bass, you'd want that frequency cutoff to be quite low down. On the low pass filter, I mean, and then you crank the resonance, and what that does is it gives this huge push to all of those low end frequencies where that filter is cutting off. You get this kind of spike where the resonance is, and it, as on the MS-20, where it can go so low, you can get a real almost sub push, and that, like, 200 hertz and below thump that you get. That you really sometimes might, I personally really like on like electronic kicks. You might want it on basses or all sorts of stuff, and you can do this as well when you patch in external signals. I've done it with my friend's bass before. It's sick. So what I have set up here so far is effectively everything that I've just said. The other area where we've got loads and loads of control over generating our kick sound is the envelope filter, because that's what we can use to shape the envelope of our kick. So obviously we want the attack time to be quite short. We want to thwack, thwack, thwack. We want the decay time to fall off quite quickly. In some electronic music that's going to be to taste, but for what I've done here, I'm going for kind of an acoustic kick type transient, so the decay time is quite low there. Sustain is a little bit further up, just because in some electronic music you might want that kind of the tail of it. And talking of the tail, the release time is up around 3 there as well, so hopefully you can see that on the B cam there. I have had to change my kind of layout because the MS-20 isn't flat. Normally I do a top down shot, but I can't do that today because it wouldn't really show you anything, so hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. But what we've got for a kick, with everything that I've just described, we've just got the keyboard out CV going into the total control over here, which is just routing CV back basically. So we just got, so that's what we have at the moment. As I say, a lot of the magic of this is the filters and where that filter cutoff is. So if I just keep doing this, I can almost control the pitch of the kick as the resonance of the kick, ironically, with that low pass filter, and that's because so much that resonance is dimed. If I just pull that resonance out, show you what it's doing. It's really doing an enormous amount of the work there, where the filtering is so extreme. I can also, if I move around the high pass cutoff here, you can kind of hear that whistling away in the background, but you can also tell that it's not doing an enormous amount. The reason it's not doing an enormous amount is because we have so much low pass going on down there that, and with the resonance and everything, we are really pushing those low frequencies super hard. Again, as I said earlier, if we start twisting knobs over on our envelope filter, if I bring up the release time, for example, there we go. You get a lot of that pitch drift, by the way, is coming from that this patch cable here, patching the CV out. So yeah, by bringing up that release and sustain time, I can kind of change the transient there and not the transient necessarily, but change the character of the sound, the envelope of the sound really, into something that's a lot more like that kind of more modern Post Maloney type bass thing. But yeah, obviously we're not doing that today. We are aiming for kicks, and that is pretty much how you get them. Now, what we have kind of spoiled a little bit there is if we wanted to talk about toms, you're actually not far off. If I wanted to bring, so for example, let's take our rack toms, right? So our rack toms, we're going to need to bring the frequencies up. We're going to need to bring our footage up on those oscillators to try and get a kind of higher, more mid-rangey frequency, because what we've got going on the kick is really bassy. And then maybe we're going to want, I mean, we still want a quick attack time, we still want that snap, but maybe we want our toms to ring out a little bit. We don't necessarily want to change the decay time, because the decay time is how long it's going to hold that initial transient. And obviously with a drum, that initial transient is super quick and super snappy. And then there's a ton of fall off until you get to the kind of resonance of the drum, which is where the sustain is. I'm air drumming as I speak there, just kind of wobbling around. Maybe we don't want that much release. It's still not quite where we need it. It's still a little bit bassy. Everything is still a bit shifted towards the low frequencies, and what we can do about that is start playing with these filter cutoffs. So if I bring that up a little bit on the low pass, now we're up way too high. We've got loads and loads and loads of stuff going on there. Actually, killer, super gnarly pluck there. That's really cool. I might sample that. Actually, no. I was going to take that out, but I will leave that in because I want the resonance as it resonates the drum. The pitch of the drum will change. That's what I'm after. It really is just a matter of kind of playing around until you find something that you like? Nope. As you can, so much of the heavy lifting is being done by that resonance control. So we're kind of getting there. We're getting into a kind of Tommy thing, especially in the resonance, which I'm not going to change there, but I might bring that down. Yeah, that's getting there definitely now, but we've lost some of our sustain because I think I brought it down. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Just going to bring the release down a bit. The other thing that I personally find, I don't know, again, this isn't like a big, this isn't how you would do this specifically, this is how I do this specifically. Something that I found when I'm doing this is that I need to kind of space out the notes. So if I was looking for a floor tom, for example, I might be down there. If I'm looking for my rack toms, I'm up there somewhere. Still really, really cool. Let's have a look at snares. What we're looking at with snares really is sort of a lot of the same principles that we talked about with kicks and toms. It's going to be very much envelope generator 2, it's going to be the envelope, or it's going to be in the filters. I have moved the filters around quite a bit. What I've done over here in the patch bay bit is when you hit a snare, you don't necessarily get a lot of that pitch fall off. So I've kind of taken that out and I've reused the patch cable. I've brought in some white noise from the white noise generator and just patched that in on the external signal in up here. And what that allows me to do is really bring in a lot of that kind of crispy top end that you find in a snare hit or in cymbals and all that sort of stuff. So I'll just show you what that's doing. If I pull that out, you can hear that that's the ring of my snare, right? That's the what I've got coming out of the oscillators here, which I've actually kept still very, very low, and then I've used the filters and peaked the resonance on the high pass filter. And I can use that to tune my ring. So I might want to tune that to my track, for example, or if I'm trying to mimic a certain drum, I can do it that way. And then I'm using the low pass filter in conjunction with my white noise over here to tame all of the extra high end that white noise is adding. So I can use my cutoff frequency in my low pass filter, which has the resonance down quite far now. And things start to sound quite snarey, quite electronic snarey, kind of 808 snarey, but snarey nonetheless. And then again, my envelope generator, I'm using that to shape the sound. So the attack is very short, but if I bring that up, not appropriate at all. Cool, but not a snare. So I want that quick. The decay time, again, the decay time on a snare is super, super quick. You just slap, it's all transients. Again, it's cool, but it doesn't really sound much like a snare. So I'm going to bring that back down. Being careful not to bring it down too far so I don't end up with clicks. The sustain level is right down. I'm not really interested in a huge amount of trail being added to my snare, and then I have got the release time set at about 1. If I bring that up, I'm almost simulating like a big kind of hall reverb in like a very, very, very approximate way, mind you. It doesn't sound like a reverb, but you get that kind of the big tail that you would expect to hear in a big room is what I'm kind of getting at there. So that's my snares then. So if I wanted to do cymbals, a lot of that stuff is really, really similar. So all I really need to do is bring up where that high pass filter is cutting off. I'm not interested in having that big snare body in my cymbals. That's not going to work. And then really a lot of this is going to come out of the envelope generator. So if I bring my high pass filter up, I'm already kind of in that cymbally zone, vaguely. I'm going to bring the release time up. The release time is going to be really, really important here because that's going to determine whether my cymbal is open or closed. For example, with my hi-hat, if I want a closed hi-hat, or open hi-hat, it's all, and then that release time, open and close. Again, it's a drum, it's percussive, I want a really fast attack on my envelope filter. The decay time, kind of up to you, you kind of do it to taste, but you do want to keep it a bit lower because again, it's a drum, so much of that initial hit dies off after you hit it. There are going to be some cymbals where it sustains a bit better, but that is what our sustain knob is for. But that is obviously being curtailed there by our release, which gives us lots and lots of stuff. Now, and if I want to change the character of the cymbal that I'm getting, maybe I'm looking at something like an open hi-hat to a ride, or a crash, or a china, or that sort of stuff, a lot of that is going to come, again, from in conjunction with the filters and your envelope generator. Almost chinery there, but maybe I'm going for a closed hi-hat. I need to close the filter off a bit, take out a lot of that low end, and bring my release time down so I get the that I want out of my hi-hat. But maybe I want to open my hi-hat up. Maybe I want something like a ride cymbal. Again, I'm not saying that these are, set in stone, this is exactly how you do this. I'm just saying this is how I do this. And I'm saying that it doesn't sound exactly like an acoustic ride, obviously. But for electronic music, if you're trying to make your own drums, these are just the principles that you might start off with. This is how I learned to do it. And I'm quite happy with some of the sounds I got. Admittedly, I do rely quite a bit on external processing for, I get the kind of the bare sample out of the MS-20 or out of the DFAM that I used to have that I've since moved on, and then I will process that with EQ and compression and all of those wonderful things in my DAW, or indeed, if I'm lucky enough, in hardware, and we can get all sorts of zesty sounds out of that. So there you have it then. Obviously, this does have its limitations. For example, we can't play all of these sounds at once. We have to record them and load them into a sampler. It's also worth saying though that you can do this on pretty much any synth. Any synth you have at home, you can probably do it with software or hardware. If you're looking for a really cool free synth to get started and try out some of this stuff, Vital. Vital's awesome. Everyone should have Vital. It's free. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was kind of vaguely useful. Again, I know I said it when I was outside, but I think it's important to reiterate that you can do this on any synth, pretty much. As long as you've got a fast enough attack on your filters and your envelope filter, you can be able to do all sorts of really cool stuff. Thank you so much again for checking out the channel. I really appreciate it. Nevermore has a forum, which I'll pop down below in the description. So if you want to get chatty, talk with like-minded people, and nerd out about stuff, then get down there, show off your music. There's no limitation around what you can post there. You want to show off your music. You want to give your band a shout out and all that sort of stuff. I will listen, I will read it, you'll get feedback. Everyone there is lovely, so go and check it out. It's a cool place to be. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Oh, like and subscribe.